Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be covering complete unit 5, that is JavaScripts in web technologies. Friends, I have uploaded complete web technology tutorials. I will provide link in description. You can watch from there. And if you are watching this video for the first time, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Let's get started. At first, I will explain introduction to JavaScript. Definition of JavaScript is lightweight, cross-platform and interpreted scripting language. This is definition of JavaScript. The meaning of this definition is JavaScript is lightweight. Lightweight mean JavaScript consume very less memory. This is meaning of lightweight. And JavaScript is cross-platform. The meaning of this cross-platform is, for example, I written JavaScript program in Windows system and I copied this program and I executed the same program in Linux. Even though that program will work, output will get generated. This is meaning of cross-platform. Meaning of cross-platform is, even though if we change platform, that is from Windows to Linux, that program will work. This is meaning of cross-platform. And last one is interpreted scripting language. Meaning of this interpreted scripting language is, before that you need to know what is difference between compiler and interpreter. For example, I written program. This program is of 10 lines. What compiler do is, compiler will convert this entire program into machine code at a time. This is meaning of compiler. What compiler do is, compiler will convert this entire program into machine code at a time. But what interpreter do is, interpreter will convert program into machine code line by line. For example, I have written 10 lines of program. What interpreter do is, interpreter will convert first line of code into machine code. After completion of first line, it will go to second line, and after completion of second line, it will go to third line. This is how interpreter will convert program into machine code. Difference between this compiler and interpreter is, compiler will convert entire program into machine code at a time, but whereas interpreter will convert program into machine code line by line. JavaScript is interpreted scripting language. We can design various kinds of web pages by using JavaScript, and many of the non-browser environments also use JavaScript. This is second point. JavaScript contains standard library of objects. Example of standard library of objects is arrays. Arrays, date, month, all this comes under standard library of objects. And it also contains elements like operators, control structures and statements. Example of control structures are if statement, else if statement, for loop, do while loop, all this comes under control structures. JavaScript is used for both client-side developments and as well as for server-side developments. And if JavaScript is used in client-side, this JavaScript will act as DOM, where DOM stands for Document Object Model. In client-side, JavaScript will provide objects to control browser, so it acts as DOM. The main role of JavaScript in client side is to provide objects to browser, and whereas in server side also JavaScript will provide objects, but it will provide objects to server. This is difference between JavaScript in client side and server side. Only difference is, in client side JavaScript will provide objects to browser. Browser is nothing but it is client. And whereas in server side, it will provide objects to server. There are so many libraries that we use in client side. Among them, Angular JavaScript and React JavaScript are commonly used libraries. And whereas in server side, Node JavaScript is commonly used library. We can add JavaScript to HTML in two ways. First one is internal JavaScript and second one is external JavaScript. In internal JavaScript, we will write JavaScript inside HTML by using script tag. This is example. Inside HTML, we are writing JavaScript. For that, we need to use script tag inside body tag, and where we need to write JavaScript code inside this, where script stands for JavaScript, because we are writing JavaScript. So I am using script tag here. And whereas in external JavaScript, we need to write JavaScript in one file, and whereas HTML in another file, and at last we need to link this both files, and we need to save JavaScript file with JS extension. For example, I given file name as file, and we need to save this file with JS extension, where JS stands for JavaScript. These are the features of JavaScript. First one is JavaScript is dynamic in nature. The meaning of this dynamic is, for example, I want to design website which I need to modify day by day. For example, I want to change contents inside this website daily. So in order to create such websites, I use JavaScript. In order to create dynamic web pages, I use JavaScript. And next point is, we can handle date and time in JavaScript, and whereas we can also perform form validation. We can validate forms by using JavaScript, and no compiler is needed. As we know, JavaScript is interpreted scripting language, so there and no compiler is needed. These are the 4 features of JavaScript. This is syntax of JavaScript. The name itself says JavaScript. So we need to use script tag, where script stands for JavaScript. Inside this script tag, we need to write JavaScript code. This is syntax of JavaScript, and next I will explain one small example program of JavaScript. This is small example of JavaScript. Inside HTML, I am writing JavaScript. So we know that HTML contains head tag, and as well as body tag, where inside head we need to write title. I am writing JavaScript program, so I am giving title as JavaScript example. You can give title as your wish, any name you can give for this title. Inside body, we need to write JavaScript. So it first open script tag, as I already said in syntax. For JavaScript, we need to use script tag. I open script tag, and similarly I closed this script tag, and inside this I am writing JavaScript code. Console.log of welcome to CSC. This is JavaScript code which I have written, where console.log is used to generate output. So output is welcome to CSC. This is output. Next, applications of JavaScript. First one is web development. We can design various kinds of websites by using JavaScript. And next one is web applications. We can design various kinds of web apps by using JavaScript. For example, if you consider Google Map, one of the famous application, it is designed by using JavaScript. And third one is, it is also used for server applications. In order to create server apps, we use JavaScript, and we can create games by using HTML5 and JavaScript. By combination of these two, we can create various kinds of games. And fifth point is smartwatches. We use JavaScript in smartwatches, and there is one library function called Pebble.js, Pebble JavaScript, that is used in smartwatches. And for arts, many of the artists and designers also use JavaScript in order to make arts. And last point is machine learning. In machine learning also we use JavaScript. These are the applications. Next, limitations. What are the disadvantages of JavaScript? First one is performance. JavaScript cannot handle complex tasks. So if you want to create complex web applications, JavaScript is not suitable for this. And next one is complexity. Programmers should have very good knowledge on various concepts in JavaScript, because if programmers do not have good knowledge on JavaScript, once if any error occurs in the program, it will take lot of time to handle that particular error. So programmers should have very good knowledge on JavaScript. Otherwise, there is chances for high errors, and handling errors is very difficult. So time taking is more. This is meaning of complexity. And last one is weak error handling. As I already said before, once if you get any error in JavaScript, handling those error is very difficult. These are the 3 disadvantages of JavaScript. Next topic is variables in JavaScript. The use of variables is to store values. In order to store particular value, we use variables. This is syntax of declaring variables in JavaScript. For example, this is syntax, variable name equal to value, where I given name as variable name as x and value as 10, where x is going to store this value 10. X will store this value 10. This is syntax and example of declaring variables in JavaScript. There are some rules which we need to follow before declaring variable. First rule is, we can start name with letter from capital A to Z or from small a to z. We can start declaring name with letters or $sign or underscore. For example, if you consider variable x equal to 10. We can start like this because where x is letter, so we can start like this. We can also start like this, variable $x equal to 10, or we can also start like variable underscore x equal to 10. This is how we need to start declaring names. For example, if I declare like this, variable 10 equal to 10, it will display error because we cannot start name with number, and we can start declaring digit after writing letter. For example, variable x10 equal to 10. We can start like this because at first I declared letter and after that I written number. We can start like this. This is first rule. Name must be started with letter or $sign or underscore. And next rule is variables are case sensitive. Mean both small a and capital A are different. This is meaning of case sensitive. This is small program of HTML variables. Inside HTML, I written body tag. Inside body tag, I open script tag because we are writing JavaScript. So we need to use script tag. Inside script tag, I written variable and variable name as A and value is 10. Variable A equal to 10. And document dot write of A. So it will print output of A. Output is 10 because value of A is 10. So output is 10. This is small program of JavaScript variable where document dot write is JavaScript code that is used to generate output. This is program. Variables are classified into two types. First one is local variable and second one is global variable. Definition of local variable is variables which are declared inside the function is known as local variable, whereas variables which are declared outside the function is known as global variable. For example, this is function A, this is function name, and I am declaring variable inside the function like variable x equal to 10. If I declared variable inside the function, this is known as local variable. This x is known as local variable. For example, I declared another variable z equal to 20. Variables which are declared outside the function is known as global variable. In this, x act as local variable and in this z act as global variable. Now I will write one small JavaScript code for local variable and as well as for global variable. This is small program of local variable and global variable. I opened a script tag because I am writing JavaScript. Inside that I written function where function name is ABC, and inside this function I took variable name as A and value of A is 10. This is small program of local variable where this A is local variable because I am writing A inside function. So it is local variable. And next one is global variable. I open HTML tag and inside HTML tag I open body tag. Inside body tag I written script tag. Here I took variable and variable name is h and value of h is 10, and I open function and I given function name as A. Inside this function I am writing JavaScript code that is document write h, and similarly I open another function, that function name is B. Inside this function I written document.write of h, and at last I written function A and function B. This is program. So output is value of h is 10. So here inside function I written document write h. So it will print value of h. Output is 10. For function A, output is 10. And similarly inside function B I written document.write of h where value of h is 10. So for function B also output is 10. This is program of global variable. If scope of variable question comes in exam, then at first you need to write definition of variable and you need to write example of variable, and after that you need to write like variable is classified into two types. First one is local variable and global variable, and you need to write this program. Lifetime of variable. This is next topic, lifetime of variable. Lifetime of variable mean how much time variable is present inside our program from creating variable to till end of variable, this entire time is known as lifetime of variable. Next topic is JavaScript functions. In order to perform various kinds of operations, we use JavaScript functions. And by using JavaScript function, we can reuse code again and again. These are the advantages of JavaScript functions. First one is code reusability. How many times we want, that many times we can reuse code. This is first advantage, and second advantage is less code. So if you reuse code, there is no need of writing code again. So it contains less code. This is syntax. Function, function name, and inside function name there is arguments. There are n number of arguments we can write inside function name, and after that you need to write code here. This is syntax of function. If this question comes in exam, you can write this program. You can write this global variable program. If function question comes in exam, you can write this because in this also contains function. Next topic is event handlers in JavaScript. Whenever user performs something on the system, event occurs. For example, whenever user clicked on the button, and whenever user clicked on mouse, and whenever user closed windows, or whenever page is loaded, all these are the examples of event. There are so many kinds of events. Among them, first one is mouse event. These are mouse events. For example, there is one file. If I move mouse into this particular file, this is mouse. Whenever I move mouse in this particular file, mouse over event occurs. When the cursor of mouse comes over the element, that means whenever I move mouse on particular element, mouse over event occurs. And whenever I remove mouse from this file, whenever I remove mouse from this particular folder, mouse out event occurs. And whenever I release mouse from this file, mouse up event occurs. And at last, mouse move event. For example, my mouse cursor is in this position, and I moved that mouse, so cursor location changes. This is known as mouse move event. You need to remember this 4 in your exam. There are 4 kinds of mouse events. First one is mouse over, next one is mouse out, third one is mouse up, and at last fourth one is mouse move. Next one is keyboard event. Whenever user press any key on keyboard event occurs. For example, I pressed F button in my keyboard. It is an event. I clicked on enter button. It is an event. All these are examples of keyboard events. And third one is form events. Whenever user focus on particular file, then focus event occurs. This is first event in form. And next one is submit event. For example, this is form. This form contains name and password. I entered name and I entered password, and I clicked on submit. Whenever I clicked on submit event occurs. Whenever we remove focus from form element, blur event occurs. And at last fourth one, change event. Whenever we perform some changes in form element, change event occurs. These are the 4 events in form event. At last fourth one is Windows event, or we can also call it as document event. What are the types of operations that we can perform on particular document is known as document event. Whenever browser finish the loading of page, it is known as load event. For example, in Google site, I have entered some text. For example, here I entered result and I clicked on enter button. So after clicking on enter button, page will load. It is known as load event. And whenever user closes the page, unload event occurs. And third one is resize event. Whenever user resize windows of browser, resize event occurs. These are the 3 events. Next topic is JavaScript form validation. As we all know what is form. For example, if you want to send any application, you need to send form. Like you need to enter username, password, and you need to enter all your details, and you need to click on submit. This is known as form, and you can create such kind of forms by using HTML. For example, if you see this website, because it contains name and password, after entering username and password, you need to click on submit. This is known as login form. For example, there is an user. This user entered details, like he entered username and he entered password. In order to check that whether whatever the information that was entered by user, whether it is correct or not, in order to check that, we use JavaScript. In order to validate user information which he was entered, we use JavaScript. At first we need to create form. we can create form by using HTML. I am creating login form that contains name, password and one submit button. For that, first open form tag, HTML and body. Inside body I open form tag because we are creating form, and form name is login form. This is name which I have given, login form. This is name, and method is post. You can also use get method here. Post, and action is, in action we need to enter URL. You need to paste your link here. For example, http www. So on submit equal to return validate form. This is on submit is needed in order to check that whether user information is correct or not. Whatever the user information that you have entered, whether it is correct or not, in order to check that we use this on submit event. Return validate form. I open form, and similarly we need to close this form. Inside form I am creating form that contains name. In name input type is text because name is text character, so I given input type as text. And name, I am giving name as name, and break tag here. That means we are breaking line by writing particular line of code. By writing this particular line of code, there is one text field created. The text field name is name. And similarly I need to create password. For password input type is password. In password you can enter text, and as well as you can also enter number and special characters. And I given name as password. This is name which I have given. And at last you need to use break tag in order to break line. By typing this particular line of code, there is one text box created. In this we can enter password. Next I need to create submit button. For that I need to write this line of code. Input type is submit and value is submit. This is name. For example, if I given here name as login, so here login button gets created. This is form which I have created in order to create name, password and submit button. For example, if we do not enter any information in name field, we should get message like name cannot be blank. For that we need to use JavaScript. And for example, inside password I given only 5 characters in password. If I given 5 characters in password, then it should display message like password must be at least 6 characters. In order to display these two messages, I need to use JavaScript. This is script which we need to write. Function, I given function name as validate form because we are validating form. So I given function name as validate form. Inside validate form, I given variable name as document my form name. That means whatever the information that we have entered in form, it will display here. And variable password is document my form password value. These are the two lines of code which we need to write. Meaning of this is whatever the information that we have entered inside this name and password, it will validate this information. If whatever information we have entered, if name equal to null or name equal to empty, then it should display message like alert name cannot be blank and return false. For example, if you do not enter any information in name and password, then it should display message like name cannot be blank. For that, else if password is less than 6, in case whatever the password which I have entered is less than 6 characters, then it should display message like password must be at least 6 characters long. So in order to display this message, we need to write this script. This is form validation in JavaScript. This topic is DOM, that is document object model in JavaScript. Whenever HTML document is loaded into browser, then it becomes document object. This is definition. When HTML document is loaded in browser, it becomes document object. And if you want to represent your document in the form of tree structure, we use document object model. If you want to represent your HTML document in the form of tree structure, we use document object model. This is program. I took HTML. Inside HTML, I opened head tag. Inside head, I given title as my title. And similarly, inside body, I took H1, that is heading 1 as CSE and heading 2 as BTech, and I closed this body tag, and at last I closed HTML tag. This is small program which I have written. And if you want to represent this program in the form of tree structure, we use document object model, where these tags are known as elements, and whatever the text that you have written in between these tags, this is known as text. This is a tree structure. If you see this, you can clearly understand. Here document is HTML, where HTML is root element, as we know first one is root element. So here root element is HTML, and inside HTML there are two elements. First one is head and next one is body. I opened element head and element body, and here inside head I written title, and I given title as my title. So here element is title and I given text as my title, and similarly inside body I written heading 1 as CSE and heading 2 as BTech. So here element, that is H1, inside H1 I written text as CSE, and inside H2 element I written text as BTech. This is document object model. If you want to represent your document in the form of tree structure, we use document object model. These are the methods of document object model. If you want to give any string, that means if you want to enter any text to document, we use this write string method. And if you want to return particular element by entering id, we use get element by id method. If you want to get any element by entering name, we use get element by name method. And if you want to get any element by entering tag name, we use get element by tag method. And at last, if you want to return all the elements present in particular class, we use get element by class name method. These are the methods that we use in document object model. And there are some properties of document object. This is diagram. Document contains anchor, form and link, and form contains text, text area, checkbox, radio, select, reset and button. These are the things that form contains, and whereas select is optional. Last topic is control structures, that is conditional statements and control loops in JavaScript. Guys, I have already explained control structures in unit 1. Everything is same except that whereas in PHP here we took $, and here we return echo to generate output. Whereas in this JavaScript, instead of writing $, here we need to write variable data type. And instead of writing echo, we need to write document.write, where document.write is JavaScript code that is used to generate output. And we need to write this program inside script tag, inside HTML in body, and inside this script we need to write this program. Rest everything is same. Guys, I have uploaded complete web technology tutorials. I will provide link in description. You can watch from there.